Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on Arrow Season 7, and this is going to be my review for Episode 4, otherwise entitled Level 2. But of course, before we get into the rest of the video, if you've not watched the episode, go watch it, because man, there's some big spoilers, especially with some stuff, maybe not in our time. So yeah, go watch the episode, then come back to this video later on. But if you are continuing on, be sure to drop a like, especially for the big stuff that happens in this episode. Show your support for the Arrow videos by doing that. Let me know in the comments section down below, what are your reactions to all the stuff we saw in this episode. What do you think? Not only, you know, in the stuff not in our time, but also the stuff in present day. What are your thoughts on all of that? And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. But last episode was really Oliver's journey to getting down to level 2. You know, assaulting some guards, assaulting some fellow inmates, and yeah. So that's where he is in this episode. But just a note, I know a lot of you guys will be wanting to hear me talk about the future stuff. I am going to leave all of that to the end of the video so I can just talk about all of it in one big go, because it jumps to and from it. So I'm going to talk all about the future stuff towards the end of the video. Now we start off the episode with Oliver in some form of solitary confinement. Like, it isn't solitary confinement like the shoe or anything like that. It's just like a light, like a room where like lights are flickering on and off would be like just keeping him awake all the time. He's not getting fed, he's not getting water or any liquids into him, so it's pretty much torture, so it's not that good for Oliver. But we do see this doctor come in. I think it was Dr. Parker. I think his name was Jared Parker or something like that. If I got that wrong, let me know in the comment section down below. I don't think we really have to care about his name too much. But he's coming in and just, going over Oliver's stuff. We'll jump into more of that later on. But I did see some people, especially in my Discord, when we were watching the episode live, and they were saying that this guy could possibly be the demon, which is a possibility because this guy would only be found on level 2. And as Brick was saying last episode, the demon's on level 2. You're gonna have to get there. You're not gonna get him in the general population of the prison. You're gonna have to get down to level 2, and that's where this dude is. So he could be the demon. I have to wait and see. I think he's the most likely candidate, especially what happens at the end of this episode, and seeing that next episode is called the demon. But I have to wait and see. But obviously I forgot to mention, at the end of last episode, we saw that Rene and Felicity had actually captured the Silencer, one of the Longbow hunters, and that continues on into this episode. So Felicity wants to essentially torture the Silencer, get information on Diaz, because as we know, Felicity is like dead set, just straightforward, wants to catch Diaz no matter what. Really, we've gone over this. Maybe Felicity should straighten up a bit because people could get hurt. But I don't know, nothing really bad happens in regards to anyone else in this episode in regards to her going after Diaz. So Felicity does pretty well in this episode in regards to all of that. But she needs some help, so she brings in Laurel, or Laurel, Black Siren, whatever we're calling her. So she comes into this episode. And I must say, I think Laurel was probably the best character in the episode. I'm just trying to think. Probably Laurel was. I thought her scenes were great. I think all of her scenes in this episode were great. Even though there is disdain between the character of Laurel and the character of Felicity now on the show, their interactions are actually some of the best on the show. So I think we want to see more of that. Obviously, Laurel and Dinah have a good, bouncing off of one of each other. But I think Laurel and Felicity, just because you can tell, at least before this, Laurel just can't stand Felicity. Obviously, that changes a bit in this episode, but I think their back and forth is some of the best on the show nowadays. But we do find out through a community sort of talk that Dinah's having with some of the residents, mainly of the Glades. I think that all of them were from the Glades, or at least the majority of them, that SCPD is just doing a terrible job. They're just doing a crap job, especially when it comes to the Glades. Like, all their attention is obviously to the main parts of Star City rather than the Glades, and they're suffering down there. And that sort of is like a bit of an emphasis on what's happening in this episode. Like, the Glades are really come back into it. Like, the Glades throughout the whole of Arrow's run have been a focus, like especially in Season 1. And we will come back to some stuff around Season 1 and how it's affecting this season as well. But obviously they are just placing little building blocks. But we do see the community center, get lit up. It's a victim of arson. And it's actually revealed that throughout this episode there are people buying the sort of like fire damaged buildings and properties throughout the Glades and buying them for a ridiculously cheap price. So obviously they're going to make a profit, or they're just, they're cheap to buy. So that's a massive thing that they have to try and stop in this episode. Now, they don't 100% succeed in this episode in regards to that, but they do make some sort of dent in it. But I'm guessing that's going to be something that we see play out in the next couple of episodes or even later on in the season. But due to the fire at the community center, who's there? Well, there's people from the community. One of them is Zoe, and she's actually saved by the fake Green Arrow. Now, one thing about the fake Green Arrow, I'm not going to say the names and stuff like that, but there was a leak on who the Green Arrow was going to be thanks to spoiler titles and stuff like that. I'm not going to go into depth in regards to that in this video. Some of you guys might know who I'm referring to. In this episode, you do see the eyes of who is in the mask fairly clearly. You can hear them. They have a really deep voice. It's a bit confusing. A lot of people are jumping to conclusions as to who it could be. I think the main one from looking at this person in the suit is that it's Roy. I don't think the show would make it that clear. An important thing to remember with people in these suits is that if they're masked, especially with like covering their face and stuff like that, don't base it off just their looks and stuff like that, because 99.3% of the time, it's probably a stunt person under there, because why would you pay the actor to be under the suit and waste their time if they're not going to show their face and, you know, if their voice is being changed and stuff like that. So that most likely isn't the actual actor under there. It'd be weird if it was. So that's just a stunt person. So don't base your theories and stuff like that off how that person looks, because most of the time, as I said, like 99.3% of the time, it's not relevant. But we do get a Bebo cameo in this episode. How good is that? I think yesterday on Supergirl there was a Bebo cameo. Obviously Legends has a big Bebo thing, and Flash has had Bebo. So all the Arrowverse shows have now had Bebo on them. So Bebo is taking over. Lock up your doors, lock up your kids. Bebo's coming. Now we do see Dinah arresting Rene in this episode due to his like interactions with the fake Green Arrow, and also going after the Arsonist himself, basically as a vigilante. Now this would have been a major issue if they hadn't had another scene, because they had this scene, then they jumped to the future, and it sort of contradicted what Dinah was going for here. But then they had a scene play out that sort of corrects that, and then we see what happens towards the end as well. So thank God that happened, because if this scene was the lone scene without any real follow-up, then there would have been some major issues with the Dinah character. I thought Dinah was going a bit out of line, but I think they just went to that extreme. So then there's like not the retribution, but she like sort of comes down to Renee's level and just realizes what's right. But as I was saying, the Laurel and Felicity stuff in this episode was them bouncing. It wasn't my favorite stuff in the episode, but their interactions were probably the best interactions. And that conversation that Laurel was having about don't go into the darkness, like even if something's coming towards you, that's the issue that Laurel had, is that she just absorbed the darkness. Obviously, we saw that sort of in season 2 of The Flash when we first met Black Siren with the Zoom and stuff like that. Obviously, Zoom might have had an effect on her. They don't really bring that into it too much. I think they're sort of just trying to make Laurel her own character and not trying to attach Zoom too much to her backstory. But she goes into how like her dad died, her Oliver Queen died, and all of that. And Felicity's in like sort of a similar situation to that at the moment. So she's just trying to basically get Felicity to not fall into that darkness. But essentially, we see Felicity do the smart thing in the episode, which was, allow Silencer to escape, but attach a GPS thing to her silencer belt that she uses. So they're going to be able to find her eventually, whether it's next episode or the episode after. I have to wait and see. I think it'll probably be next episode. I think they'll do a next episode. We'll have to wait and see. But like we see the Dr. Park, or whatever his name was, the doctor that's with Oliver, and he calls this thing the machine. I was like, what the hell is this machine? Because he referenced it a couple of times, and I was like wondering what it was. But it's sort of like affecting Oliver's memories and stuff like that. Now at first I thought they were trying to like wash the Green Arrow out of him, so he wouldn't have any, once he got out of prison, if that ever happened, he wouldn't be envious or be enticed to go back to being a vigilante. So they were trying to wash out that vigilante, wash out any memories that sort of pushed him to becoming a vigilante and stuff like that, mainly stuff around his father. They were doing that, but then towards the end of the episode, he doesn't even remember his name. He's calling, or he might remember that he is Oliver Queen, but he's identifying himself as inmate 4587. So I'm curious as hell where they go with this, because it would be extremely interesting if Oliver leaves prison and he just doesn't really know who he is. Like, it would be pretty interesting. Am I the only one that thinks that? But we'll have to wait and see. I'm curious. Once again, because this guy's doing so much to Oliver, you'd almost think he is the demon for next episode. As I said, it's the demon. But then again, maybe the demon comes in and sort of saves Oliver in regards to this. I'm curious. I haven't seen but we actually did watch the promo for next week on my stream earlier on because it got leaked. But I haven't looked at it in like too much detail. So I'm curious in regards to all that and seeing what exactly it could mean, but I'm guessing they won't reveal too much in that promo. But we do see Rene, Dinah, and the fake Green Arrow take on the Arsonist, which, as I said, was sort of like that redeeming quality for Dinah in this episode in regards to, arresting Rene earlier on. And this was another scene when we saw the Green Arrow there, and he just looks a bit male, and also people trying to break down who it is by looking through the mask and his stature and all that. And as I said, don't look too deep into that. But the Arsonist, one of them does get away, so that's why I'm saying that this is just going to continue. But that also sort of follows up into some of the future stuff, which we will jump into in literally a couple of seconds. But the last thing in present day to really take note of is Dinah giving Zoe randomly a black canary pin. Now, I have a feeling a lot of people might have issues with this. Personally, for me, I don't have too much of an issue with it, but I think people that are mad Black Canary fans, especially remember the way that the characters tread on Arrow, might not be the biggest fan of this, but I'll let them talk. I'm not going to talk for them. But let's jump into the future stuff. So, yeah, we knew from the last flash forward, not last episode, but the episode before, that we were going to Star City. And we were very excited for this just to see how it all was. And the first place we really go to is Smoke Tech, and it is run down and all of that. And I was wondering, okay, why is it run down? Where's Felicity? I was a bit confused by that. But at least Smoke Tech's meant to happen. Will it happen this season? Who knows? They're waiting a while. I don't think there's enough time in this season to really develop Smoke Tech at all. So I think it's just going to be one of the things that exists in the future, but we never see it develop. But then we see Dinah back as a vigilante, but she doesn't seem to have any powers. I think in one shot she had a scar there. I don't know if they referenced that. I might just not have been paying attention. But I think she has a scar on her throat or something, as if someone stabbed her or slit her throat and just ruined her powers. Or her powers were surgically removed. I don't know, something like that. But that was the weird thing. That was the scene that cut to Dinah being revealed as the one that saved Roy and William in the future. But that was the scene after she arrested Rene about being a vigilante and working with vigilantes and stuff. And it just contradicted each other. So that was one point that a lot of people have been bringing up, is that if they jump into the future, then there's sort of either confirming that people won't die, or they can, make some storylines redundant. So if they kept going with this storyline in this season about Dinah being oh, vigilantes, no, we can't do it. This scene in the future makes that all redundant, because it's just we know that she's going to become a vigilante in the future anyway. So thank God that they sort of sorted that out straight after this scene, because it would have been eating at me, to be completely honest. But we do find out that the glades have risen there, the powerhouse. There's a wall around them. There's people protecting it and stuff like that. Those cops that come in. And I was okay, this seems basically the polar opposite of season 1. Instead of the glades falling, the glades have risen. So it seems this season is going to be that. Obviously, as I was saying before, the arsonists obviously are burning these places down, and people are buying them for cheap prices because they're burnt property. And that's what it's just saying. They're making the glades this complete powerhouse. So that's a really interesting storyline. It is a complete opposite to season 1, where the glades are being destroyed and they actually want to level the glades completely to do their own thing. Now they're actually just building upon the glades in this season. As we see in the future, it gets pretty powerful. So that's actually a very interesting storyline. But as I was saying, we saw Dinah give Zoe that little black canary pin. I think we all got a hint that she might show up in this episode. That's what happens. We see future Zoe as Black Canary, even wearing the little black canary pin with a mask and all that. I didn't see her use her powers, but you have to assume she has maybe a Sarah Lansing. I think I saw something on her neck, but I wasn't 100% sure. She wasn't in the episode for too long. But she also mentions that her father isn't dead. I thought they were going to say her father was dead, and I think a lot of people were thinking that she was going to say that he was dead, because Dinah referenced them killing vigilantes. So I was oh, okay, well, if they kill vigilantes, sure, there's a reference point to that. So maybe Rene's dead because he's not showing up, but he just wouldn't step back into Star City, and I think that makes sense. It will be interesting to see her path coming back to Star City and being a vigilante if they want to, but she's a part of the vigilante resistance. I think that's what they call themselves. So I wonder who else will be a part of that resistance. But the big moment of the episode, which I think a lot of people will be shocked by, because over the years, they've confirmed that some characters would never die on the show. In this universe, they never die. And one of those characters was Diggle, and one of the other characters was Felicity, and they confirm at the end of this episode that Felicity is dead. She's been killed. Now, big shock, I was surprised, but when you look back at it, sort of makes sense, because Smoke Tech was run down. Obviously, if Star City just went to crap, she would just leave. But Smoke Tech was run down, so maybe just, stuff falls apart. But, man, Felicity's dead in the future. I wonder what effect that's going to have on William as well as Roy. And I guess the big question that a lot of people will be asking is, where's Oliver Queen? Where's Oliver Queen in the future? Is he dead as well? Has he gone into some sort of just by himself situation because Felicity died, I don't know. I'm intrigued as hell. These flash forwards, man, they keep me hooked. They keep me hooked, and they do them in such a strong way. We cut to these. There was more flash forwards in this episode than the previous ones, but it wasn't drowning the episode. So I hope we get some next episode, but I wouldn't be surprised if they take maybe another break because there were such big reveals in this episode. So we might have to wait till episode 6 to get more of them. But I can't wait to see more of these flash forwards. They just keep me so hooked. The only thing they have to really avoid is sort of making some storylines redundant in present day, but they did a good job in sort of fixing Dinah up throughout this episode and sort of getting her in line with Rene and the Green Arrow and stuff like that, so the future doesn't seem so ridiculous and make the present day story redundant. So they did a good job in regards to all that. But man, Felicity's dead. I guess Twitter is going to love that, certain parts of it. But overall, this was a really strong episode. I think this is my favorite episode of the season. Level 2, I think it's my favorite episode of the season. With the flash forwards mixed with the present day storyline, the Felicity and Laurel stuff was good. The Rene and Dinah stuff was good. The prison stuff was actually probably the weakest stuff, but still really interesting. I think it's more lead up to next episode and what they do with that. But man, I really enjoyed this episode. I think it's my favorite. Let me know if you agree with me. There might be some conjecture and debate between that. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comment section down below your general opinions on this episode. Did you like it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What was your favorite part? And do you agree with me that it's the best episode so far this season? Let me know in the comment section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.